Hello, Devlin here with you, and I am here outside. I'm right here on Main Street, coming to you live from across the street at Gage Park as I'm picking up Dave. We're starting off this episode a little bizarre. We're heading off to the Midsummer Nights Festival, whatever it's called. Midsummer Night's Dream, yes, it's Dream in there, and that was the voice of Corda, who I talk about quite regularly, and Dave is now here. We had to go pick him up because he's a diva like that. Couldn't meet us across the street. We had to make that turn. Now we have to go through the Children's Museum, which is always fun, especially if you see how I'm dressed. Anyhow, it's a great day, beautiful sunshiny day, and I decided to take you with, for all you people who are afraid of getting a little dirty, I thought this would be a great way to show you the action on a radio show. Yes, because we take you to places that don't translate on the radio at all. So anyhow, you're going to hear a lot of little clips as we do this. And are you guys all ready for this?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do it.
Are you getting colored this year, Dave? No.
Simply no.
Dave is very adamant, but he likes to go see everybody else. He likes to look at the coloreds. People, as in the... Okay, let's leave it at that. So we're now going to cross the street. You probably hear the traffic, because I know this thing picks it up. And I'm going to take you right into the action. I've actually tried to do this, and this actually tapes through a plastic bag. And I'm going to take you right into the middle of one of the color explosions. So anyhow, we're going to walk to Gage Park. You probably don't want to hear that, because Jay's going to just talk about his schedule and stuff, and I don't think that makes for good entertainment. Anyhow, so we'll talk to you real soon, and we'll probably put a little, like, musical blip in here so it doesn't sound like suddenly we're all here. Why do I have to explain that? Anyhow, so, live, Midsummer Night's Dream Festival. We're taking you. Really? Really? I was just about to sign off and you had to say, oh shit. Not that we can't swear here, but really, is that going to help my show in any way?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Anyhow, that's how live we are. Dave's forgetting stuff, which anybody who knows Dave, that's quite common. Anyhow, yeah, we'll see you over in Gage Park. Next time you hear from me, we will be at Gage Park. And we're recording. We're actually now walking towards the festival. Decided to walk with us. I wanted to explain a little bit for those of you who don't know what the Midsummer Night's Dream Festival is. This is the 5th year they've been doing it here in Hamilton, but I think they do this all over the world. And it's basically they shoot up colored powder, and about every half hour they do this, and everybody jumps in the middle, and you just get caked with all this great powder, as you will see in the pictures and here in the audio. But what I loved about this was that it's actually a festival that they did it because I don't know the exact lore. I wish I did, but I'll give you what I thought. When you're caked with color, you can't tell people's real color, race, gender, affluence. So I like the fact that you're become one with another. Kind of reminds me of Woodstock without the sex. I wish there was more sex. I would have livened up a bit, but it's kind of not right to say when I'm looking at some of the age groups walking around here. So please, we won't, don't listen to me for that.
I don't know if it's interesting at all, but it's also based on the Indian Festival of Holi, Holi, I guess that's pronounced.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I know, I looked it up, eh?
Good. I knew you were useful. What do you bring to the table, Dave?
And it's supposed to be also about spring and rebirth and, you know.
Spring? Why are we here on one of the hottest days in August?
Probably in India, it's spring.
I'm sweating my fucking bag off right now, that's all I know. But in just a few minutes, I will be enlightened. So what do you bring to the table, Dave? Do you know anything about this festival?
Limited. I was thinking it had some kind of reference to Shakespeare.
Oh.
Well, it is named after the
It
book.
is
Yeah,
named after, but
absolutely.
That's the only reference.
Well, we'll go with that. That's a nice
That's what I
thought.
bring to the table. As usual, not much.
You just hope for topless women.
That's it.
Well, that's good. Do you have any other more insight, Heather?
No, not really.
Okay, so we're going to probably go off again, and again, we'll put a little blip in here just so you don't think, well, this is one big stream. But anyhow, we'll keep you updated. Maybe we'll talk to some people. Yeah, like I'm that brave. Anyhow, we'll do stuff. Okay, we're heading there. I'm feeling a mist. So from the fountain, if you know Gage Park, you know which one. We're going to take a picture of it right now. Okay, they're just getting ready to do one, but we're not going to join this one. I didn't realize they were going to be doing it, but we're getting some pictures of it. I apologize if you're hearing lots of crinkling. We're actually They've just done the first one that we have come to see, and we're going to be in the next one for sure. In fact, I'm going to take you in there. I've got a plastic bag wrapped around here, so that's why you can be part of this. I'm going to hold you real tight in my hands so you can be right in the middle of it without actually getting dirty. Although there's a great wind that's actually getting a lot of people who didn't want to get dirty. This isn't just about spirituality. We just dropped off our canned goods, too. They also have a thing where you can drop off non-perishable foods. So they actually help the community, too. This is a really great festival about giving and just being one, and it's just awesome to be a part of this. And I do it every year when it's not raining. I'd come when it was raining, but I'm a bit of a wimp, and this stuff stains. It stains when I sweat, so... you will see me all caked in all my loveliness in just a minute. Anyhow, we got to go buy some color, and then we're going to bring you right into the thick of this. I'm going to record while we go. You'll just hear a lot of screaming and stuff, so don't expect great commentary. But the next time you hear us, we will be in the thick of it. Anyhow, again, we're here live at the Midsummer Night's Dream Festival here at Hamilton's Gage Park. It's August 20th, 2016, and thank you for listening. So we're back again, and I'm here. We're in the festival. We just bought our colors, and we bought some cool bandanas, because that's a note. If you ever come to the Midsummer Festival, have something to cover your mouth. I don't care if it's, they say non-toxic. You're breathing in color. I'll be snorting out frickin' colors all week if I don't. So I like to have something to cover my face, and that's a good tip for just about anything you're doing this weekend. And one thing I love about the festival, too, is you get to meet people, and we have been joined here by a lovely friend of mine, Debbie Curran. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Hi, everybody. Have fun today.
She's a regular viewer, and I'm so happy to see her, and I love bumping into people. We're going to actually run this live for as long as we can, because we're going to try to get into the next color thing. You guys should be opening your colors now, because they could yell these things at any time. They should have an air horn or something.
Yeah, we swapped.
Yeah. As I said, I got my plastic bag ready. I'm not going in with color, but I'm sure these people are going to get me caked in it, so we'll enjoy it. So you're actually hearing this live? Well, actually, no, you're hearing recorded, but we're recording it live, so... So it's not like you can come down and join us. But next year, come down and join us, because we're usually here. As I said, unless it's raining, then I'm a pussy and I refuse to come, because this stuff stains like hell when it's wet. Oh, it's getting a little rowdy. People are walking. I don't know if this means anything or if they're just all drunk. Or high. You never heard that from me, though, but it is a festival. What can you expect? The music in the back, I wish I could tell you what group it is, but it's probably some indie band that's... So this won't be great entertainment, but isn't there a little... This is the irritating part when you're trying to figure out how to open it. I am commentating everything. This is really bizarre for me. When you hear the countdown, hopefully you can hear it. I will not be talking because I will have my face muffled. Okay. What colors are you going in with?
Orange. Purple to the first one.
All right, orange and purple. So psychedelic. We still might be a bit. We don't know. They just seem to yell out numbers. And then the next thing you know, you're in the middle of chaos. And remember, I won't be speaking through this because I will be muffled. But hopefully your viewership won't be. I promise you much better entertainment in the episodes to come. How's your summer been going, Deb?
It's been awesome. I've been doing a lot of Elvis tribute shows.
Nice. We'll have to have you come on and talk Elvis stuff.
I definitely can.
I know you would. She's a big Elvis fan, and we could talk a whole show of Elvis. That'd be fun. I'd love that.
We can do that.
We could do that, yeah. Elvis is everywhere. I haven't seen any Elvis impersonators here, but that would be great. But the amount they pay on those costumes, I wouldn't blame them for not coming to a place colored. Okay, we're getting a couple more pictures of me recording.
I think this is the guy.
He was totally talking about me. He totally, like that person was.
You're always the guy, definitely always.
As you can see in the photos, I'm wearing my local celebrity shirt, so people know that I am. I've been mobbed, literally. It's embarrassing. It is great being here with you all. Heather's taking random pictures of people. Make sure they're hot.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're actually going to use any of these.
Because I know it's a very spiritual event about not seeing your color or your gender and stuff, but you can still see a lot of hotness through the color. And I've just turned this whole festival into a really shallow event. But it isn't. It is spiritual. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Dave, are you excited not to get colored again this year?
Yes,
Maybe
absolutely.
we can fix them.
Hey, hey.
Uh-oh. Deb has made a threat.
Did you wear old clothes just in case?
This is old.
It's always good wearing old clothes here. It's better if you can wear other people's clothes. Then you really don't have to worry about if you get them dirty.
I could have worn truck.
Oh. I wish I could be shirtless. I see a lot of shirtless men here, but nobody wants to see that. Heather will take her top off for radio. But we cannot have the camera anywhere near.
Editing it.
Heather will be topless editing this. If that turns you on in any way, we'll send you her link to her page.
Editing.com.
How do people do this kind of festival? I can't see, you know, the idea of Woodstock was incredible, but I just think, all I'm thinking about, I'm going to get so sunburned, I'm going to get so dirty, like, how do people do 3 days of sitting in their own feces and having sex?
Didn't worry about the sun or anything else. It was nice.
Oh, would have been a great time, great time. I don't know if I could have survived it, but the thought of surviving it is a good thing. So I take these little color festivals when I can. We are here live, as I said. Yeah, you're hearing a lot of annoying yelling and screaming, but everybody's having fun. So it's really not annoying much. Oh, more pictures.
You should mention the fashion statements.
Who's made the fashion statements? A lot of people. Oh, we're getting a lot of fashion stuff. Oh, hold on. We might be going in. No, I think this is clever banter from the band. But people are heading towards the center, so this might be it. Heather mentioned fashion statements. There's a guy who looks like he could be from Mad Max Fury with a gorgeous six-pack and suspenders. Oh my God, I wish you could see it. I might.
Walking away is not bad for you.
No, I know. Anyhow, I think we're going to the middle now, so here we go. You might not hear me talking for a little bit, but you will hear a lot of screaming pretty soon. This is crazy. I'm going to say a few things muffled. I am muffled right now. Oh, I still can talk. This is good. I like that nothing stops me from talking. Somebody's already hit me with some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That's the way it is. Festival mind. So we're right here standing in the color.
Hamilton, are you ready for another color toss?
Yeah!
Here we go, everyone to the center.
We're in the center?
I think we're in the center. I'm getting by the, take a picture one time of that guy. I like the Mad Max guy.
Yeah.
I'm standing near the Mad Max guy. I'm very excited.
Everyone to the center. Here we go, Hamilton. Hamilton, are you having a good time today? Let's make some noise at No Thunder Showers at 3 p.m. Hamilton, let's give it up for the center.
We are right in the middle of a lot of people.
Are you guys ready?
Good stuff. We're going off to the side now. We have just been caked in powder. We'll be taking our first pictures before and after. These would be the after shots. Anyhow, hope we had fun. I don't know if this made for great entertainment, but we loved it. Anyhow, I'm back taping. We're walking around mindlessly. We haven't jumped in the color again yet, but we plan to because we still have a bunch, and what would we do with it unless we don't dump it on people. We're looking for the Dream Chapel. This is supposed to be where you can marry anyone, and if we find it, I might be marrying Corda today. We thought that would be a nice spiritual thing to do, and hopefully I'm taping this, because if not, I'll just be making this thing up. Anyhow, we're looking for it, but nobody seems to know where it is, so we'll let you know if that happens or not here at the Midsummer Night's Dream Festival here at Gage Park in Hamilton. So we've been walking around for a bit, and as much as I love this festival, every time I record, they start in the background counting down the top 10. Anyhow, we're not in the color this time. We are looking for this Dream Chapel that nobody in this place seems to know where it is. We've asked so many tables, and it's just ridiculous. We're just wandering around aimlessly, but we're going to find this Dream Chapel and see if we can get off this shotgun wedding. Shotgun wedding! Court is forcing me. No, I actually asked her to do this because anybody who knows me, I'm a big believer in friend unions, and I thought this would be our union. So we're going to keep looking for it, but if not, we're going to have to get back to the color at some time because I can't stay out here all day, even though I love talking with you lovely people. Anyhow, I'm going to let you go. So we're wrapping it up here. We're getting ready to leave. We did not find the Dream Chapel, but we decided it doesn't matter. We've been spiritually linked for years, and today will just be our official day. Anyhow, we had a good time. I hope you had a good time. I don't know if this makes good radio, but if you get a chance to come out to the Midsummer Night's Festival, it's definitely a lot of fun. Even if you don't want to get dirty, just stand back when the explosions happen. I am caked with dust. Enjoy the pictures. I hope we at least made you feel like you were there, and maybe next time you will be right next to us. I would really like that. Anyhow, stay tuned. We'll have the next segment coming up for you. Taking a look at the summer movie preview. Part 2. Hello, I'm all cleaned up from the Midsummer Night's Festival. I showered off and got all that color off me. I had to do some real scrubbing. That's one of the downfalls when you sweat or anything. It does get deep in there, but other than that, it just kind of washes off. So, you know, it's no big deal. It's actually kind of fun. I went to a party and people liked the fact that I had colored stuff in my hair. I don't mind the colored stuff. It's just weird when you have, like, you know, I had green on my neck that I couldn't get off. Anyhow, it's coming up to the end of the summer, and like I do every summer, I like to review movies, and how I've done it the past couple years is the first part of the summer I do the first part of the movies, and then the second part of the summer I do the second part of the movies that I've seen, and do quickie reviews. People actually like my movie reviews, which I'm very happy about, so I might actually try starting in September. At the end of each month, I may do a movie review segment of the new movies I've seen in that month. Okay? So a lot of these movies, some of them are still playing in theaters that I'm going to review. Some are probably already gone, or maybe in those little small retro theaters that are, show a little bit older movies. Some of these will probably be out on DVD very soon. But here's my reviews of the 10 movies I saw in the second half of summer. And as I said, because you've actually really told me you like my movie reviews, I may start doing this every month. Just so I can talk a little bit more about these movies, because I'm going to be cramming 10 movies, and some of them I just can't say that enough about. So, and all the movies that I saw, I'm happy to say, were over a 5 out of 10. So that's good, because at the beginning of the summer I had a couple that were under, I think, and so I'm happy to say I chose wisely, and some of these movies surprised me. Let's take a look. We're going to start things off with a holdover from the first half, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Now, I avoided the first one like the plague, and I finally got to see it on DVD, and I actually didn't hate it. I'm a big fan of the very first live action Turtles movies they did back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I really love the first one. And so I was surprised that I actually liked the first one. So I actually went to see the second one. And I have to admit, a big part of me going to see it had a lot to do with Stephen Amell being added to the cast as Casey Jones. I'm a big fan of the Arrow and have a little bit of a crush on Stephen Amell. So he definitely helped me get into theaters. Now, I always like when people just like, oh, this was not what I expected. This is nothing like the comic or the TV. And I respect your opinion and stuff, but this movie is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's geared to a younger audience due to the fact that they want younger people to go see it. So I'm always shocked that people seem to want to see Shakespeare or like a Dark Knight version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise. Just not going to happen. But I actually liked it. Now, I didn't love the movie, but I thought there was enough action. It's probably the weakest movie I've seen in the second half of the summer, but I still gave it a passing grade because I think under 5 is underwhelming. Anything over 5, at least it's a positive, and I gave it a 5.5. Now, this next movie, I had no interest in seeing another Tarzan reboot, but, you know, I have to say that, you know, its lead actor, his name's escaping me. One of the Schwartzguards. I cannot remember his first name. Anyhow, he was on True Blood. Is it Steven Schwartzguard? I gotta look this up. This is driving me crazy. Just because I know the actor and, you know, I really like him, and he hasn't really done much since True Blood finished, so this was like him in his first lead movie. And Alexander Skarsgård. Sorry, I wanted to get his name. There's 3 of them in the business, so I wanted to get this one right. So he obviously is a beautiful man, and he looks very sexy as Tarzan, but I went into this. Also, I like, actually, Margot Robbie. I am a big fan of her, too. I saw her in The Wolf of Wall Street, and I find her to be incredibly sexy, too. And I have to say that I actually kind of like this film. I thought the visuals were pretty good. I think they've kind of learned how to make apes now really good since King Kong and the Planet of the Apes movies. And this one, although, you know, people are already saying, oh, but it's no Jungle Book. No, it's not, but it's not supposed to be. But I thought the action sequences were good. I thought he was really good in the part. And I think it was a nice surprise, and I think a lot of people came out with the same reaction as me. So I give The Legend of Tarzan 6.5 out of 10. Now, I am a fan of the Purge films. I actually like the concept of the Purge films better than I've actually liked the Purge films. Example, I love the idea. For those of you who don't know what the Purge is about, it's basically a horror-based movie that's about America in a new world where, you know, employment is up, the crime is down, and the reason it is because one night a year they let you do whatever you want, and with no ramifications. There's no police, there's nothing. So you can go out and kill people, rob people. Now, there's some of you probably cringing at the thought of that. But honestly, I love the idea of that this is the way to make society better. And I hate to say it, and I don't want to be one of those negative people, but the way America's going right now, these movies aren't as fictitious as you would think. I almost see this happening in the future. Maybe, hopefully not my future, but... so I don't find them all that far-fetched. Now, the first movie I liked it, but it was more horror. Then the second movie, they kind of made more of an action horror. And they put Frank Grillo in it and decided to face many stories, where the first one is just one isolated family on Purge Night. And in the second one, Frank Grillo was brought in to kind of give it like a more action feel. Well, Frank Grillo's back, and that's good for the trilogy, just because of the fact that he's really awesome. He was a soap actor I knew from a long time ago, and he's really stepped up his game. He starred in the TV show Kingdom, I really like, and he's done some supporting stuff. But the Purge series is becoming his little thing. And this one's called Election Year, where basically there's a woman running for president who definitely wants to stop the purge. And because of that, they do everything they can to make sure she's in harm's way on purge night, and Frank Grillo becomes the man who has to save her, basically trying to use her as a scapegoat to try to kill her and stop her from winning the election and trying to stop purge night. It's actually the best of the series so far, and although these movies have not been, they've just been good enough to get my rating. I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10 because I think this one really captures the feel, and I am very excited for more Purge films, especially if Frank Grillo's attached. Now, I've been going to see independent films a little more. I only got to see one in the last little bit, but it was an interesting one, and it was probably one of my highest rated ones of the summer. A little movie called Tickled. And I got to see this at the Westdale Theater, and it's a documentary that starts out looking like it's going to be a fun, light-hearted documentary about competition in tickling. Yes, you heard that right, boys and girls, tickling competition. But what happens is the man who behind the documentary, he's a news guy, and when he found out about competitive tickling, he was really interested. But what happens is this lighthearted movie takes some dark turns, which makes this such an on-the-edge-of-your-seat documentary, because it goes from being something lighthearted to something very scary and dark. And as I said, it enters you to a world of ticklish fetish that is kind of intriguing, but it also becomes one of the best, like, news investigation movies I've seen. And you have to constantly remember, this is not actors, this is a real story, which makes it even more edgy. I found myself on the edge of my seat for this film, and if you get a chance to see it, check it out. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Probably one of the most talked about movies of the summer was the new remake of Ghostbusters, and I'm going to call it a reboot remake because it's not a continuation, even though I was a little saddened that when the promotional stuff for this movie came out, they tried to make it look like it was. I think one of the first ones they released, the first trailer said 30 years ago. And I hated that there was a lot of misleading stuff. And I had no problems with them recasting women in it or anything, but I hated that they never really told us what it was. They just kind of, okay, Ghostbusters with women, and we're going to, Chris Hemsworth will play a female, take the part of, Annie Potts' female character. Well, to me, it didn't matter. I was intrigued to go to this just to see what it's like, and it is a really entertaining movie. It isn't awesome, in my opinion, as some people may want you to believe. I think a lot of the awesome reviews, and I'm not saying if you enjoyed it, by all means, but I think a lot of the over-positive things I talked about already is that because there was so much shaming of Leslie Jones, which I don't see any reason for. And I think it's ridiculous, the people that hated the movie just based on the fact. I tried to go in with a very open mind, and I found myself very entertained. Now, I didn't have big belly laughs. I didn't, have like little, laugh that kept me going. The movie's almost instantly forgettable. What I will tell you is that I enjoyed all 4 of the lead actresses. I think they were all absolutely entertaining. I think it was nice to see them. I loved Chris Hemsworth, even though that was one of my problems with the remake of Ghostbusters. But he was really good. I love that he's showing his comic side, and it's nice to see this good-looking, hunky guy. He reminds me kind of like a Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum was always trying to do dramas and romances, but once we saw he actually was a funny guy, it's nice to see these handsome guys that are proving that they have comic timing too. But my problem with Ghostbusters, and as I said, it was a pretty solid movie. The effects I thought were pretty good. And I just thought overall, I was amused by the movie. I thought it was pretty well written. I think there was a lot of setup that I thought was even better than the original movie. Now, I don't worship Ghostbusters like other people do. Ghostbusters, the original, was just a meh kind of movie. So the fact that they remade it with women, and I still find it a bit meh. But as I said, some of the origins and startups I thought were actually better handled and better written than the originals. The two glaring problems I had with this movie is, number one, I like that they wrote women characters and they just, just played them really funny and smart. And even like Leslie Jones, I was afraid she was going to come off a little stereotype, and I never got that while I was watching the film. I thought she was actually really wonderful in it. But my two biggest problems with the movie is, number one, they seem to have to make all the male characters really dumb. In fact, Chris Hemsworth is very funny, but he gets dumber by the movie. And if that's not bad, they bring in, Andy Garcia. And he's kind of dumb, too. And I think if you're writing smart women stuff, like even smart anything, the fact that you have to, downplay the men in this, I found that a little bit jarring. And the other thing that bothered me immensely was that every 5 minutes they would bring a reference from the original film or one of the original stars like Dan Aykroyd or Bill Murray, and it always seemed to play up like, oh, see, they're okay with it. You can like this movie because Bill Murray gives it a seal of approval, Dan Aykroyd, seal of approval. And I thought there was a little too much of that. It's like, who cares? Just make your movie. Don't verify every 5-10 minutes that, oh, yep, it's okay. It's okay to like this movie because the original people liked it. Who cares? Just make your movie. One cameo, 2 cameos, I can understand. But when there's, almost everybody who, thank you, Rick Moranis, for not selling out unless I missed him. Anyhow, so there's my thing. Ghostbusters, I gave a 6 out of 10. As I said, it wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't horrible like people made out either. The third Star Trek movie came out this year, Star Trek Beyond, and I really enjoyed this film. It was very entertaining. I've loved the last 2 Star Trek films. I think they were both phenomenally done. I know some people didn't like them. I consider the very first Star Trek reboot one of the best movies. Not only just one of the best reboots, but one of the best movies of all time. I think it's got everything I like in a movie. I also liked Into Darkness. I did have problems with that a little bit, but I still found it very entertaining. Just like Star Trek Beyond, I absolutely thought this movie was a lot of fun. I think sometimes summer movie blockbusters forget that we like a little fun in our movies. And I absolutely really liked this. And I thought it was absolutely good. I think the characters are spot on. I actually kind of wish Star Trek Beyond was the second in the series and then came Into Darkness, because Into Darkness was really heavy at points. And this movie is so light that this would have been a nice introduction to them just out there doing their thing before they got into such a heavy story with Into Darkness. But overall, I enjoyed this movie. It's a lot of fun. It's too bad not many people are going out to check it out. But hopefully we still get some more Star Trek movies, because I love this cast and I'd love to see them go further. Anyhow, Star Trek Beyond, 8.5 out of 10. I hated every idea about bad moms, and I just didn't want to see it whatsoever. But this is one of those cases that sometimes you got to be open-minded, and so I had the opportunity to check it out, and when I did, I actually was pleasantly surprised by it. First of all, I thought it was one of the best comedies of the summer, if not the year so far. It is good. It's Mila Kunis, Kristen Bell, and a couple other people in it. Christina Applegate plays a really glorious villain in this. And I like it because it's kind of, they make it like a gross-out comedy. But what I loved about it is its heart. It's a really beautiful, beautiful moments. Now, there's a lot of raunchy stuff. I don't think it's overly gross out, but there is some raunchy dialogue, and probably one of the funniest bits about uncircumcised penis that I've ever seen in a film, and we'll leave it at that. But anyhow, I really was surprised, and I'm very surprised at Mila Kunis's performance. A lot of people said she's too young to be a mother, but you know what? They explain everything. I think she's wonderful in this. I know, people don't get respect when they do comedies, but I think there was a lot of good in this movie, and it was a nice surprise to go to a movie I had no interest in and walking out saying this was pretty damn good, and I give it an 8 out of 10. One of the big anticipated movies for most people was Suicide Squad, and being a fan of the DC Universe and being one of the few that actually loved Batman vs. Superman, I actually went into Suicide Squad not really looking forward to it. One, because I don't know. There's some things about it that the trailers looked fun and interesting, but I just was worried, that the third movie in the DC Universe was going to be given to the villains. I was excited about seeing Will Smith in a group performance. Margot Robbie's in it again, playing Harley Quinn. I love the idea of the casting of Jared Leto, and I am a huge fan. I know some people cannot stand him, but Jai Courtney, I just love looking at this man, and even when he's beat up and roughed up like he is in this movie, I still think he was just totally yummy to look at. But anyhow, I went into Suicide Squad not knowing what to expect, and once again, the reviews came out saying how horrible it was, and I came out loving it more than I thought. Now, I don't think I loved it as more as Batman versus Superman, but I did love it just as high. I thought this movie was entertaining. I thought the direction was great. All the complaints, I cannot see where anybody had any of those complaints. In fact, I'm almost at the point of feeling sad for people that don't get the DC Universe movies, just because of the fact that I just come out of them so entertained. And when I see people like, oh, shoddy editing or no motivation, all the stuff I mentioned on my movie review complaints thing a couple of episodes ago, it's just, to me, it's bullshit. If you have fun with this movie, it's a fun movie. Yeah, you can have your opinions on it, and my opinions, and none is better. But I absolutely love this movie. The intros and the bios, and even I know the villain is a bit weak in this, but I still think that this was such a fun and entertaining film. I am shocked to say that this was one of my favorite movies of the summer. I gave it a 9 out of 10. And finally, Sausage Party, because why not end the summer with Sausage Party? I'm glad people are going out to see this, because it's not the kind of movie that people normally do. It's an adult rated. You must say that, although there were some kids in my theater when I saw it. And it's brought to you by Seth Rogen and his people. And basically it's food talking dirty. I think I heard pretty much every filthy word. Okay, there's probably a couple they missed, but not only did I hear it once, but I heard it twice. It's a story basically quite interesting. It actually kind of is deep. I actually like these kind of movies because first of all, I like a nice adult film that looks like a kid's film. But I also like the fact that it also tries to tackle important issues. Pixar always gets praised for, Inside Out, it tackled issues. But what I liked about Sausage Party is I think Sausage Party succeeds with these issues better than Inside Out did even. And some of you will groan about that. But honestly, all people are going to see this movie for is absolutely just to hear dirty jokes coming from food. But the truth of the matter is this deals with, it's basically food that worship humans. And they wait for that day they're picked off the shelf or they go to the chosen land. And then basically, without giving away too many spoilers, they start finding out that they aren't gods. They actually eat them. And then it basically deals with people questioning faith. And I think that's a huge topic to do, but I think the fact that you're doing it with lots of dirty, filthy jokes makes it even more rewarding because of the fact that you think you're just being bombarded by this, perversion. But I like that they sneak in a little story there, and they don't have to be as heavy-handed as Pixar. They just do it. And I don't think I've heard one reviewer talk about the fact that this deals with deep topics, because all they either are loving or complaining about it is, seeing little hot dogs talk about, how they desperately want to shove it into their, the female buns and stuff like that. But I actually think there is a lesson here. Now, honestly, I wish it was a little better. This isn't hitting like Team America standards, which I think is an awesome film for the adult puppetry world. And I don't think it hits the marks of something like a South Park either, when they did their movie, which I thought was very clever in every way. But Sausage Party is still a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. And it is out in theaters still. And I gave it a 7 out of 10. Anyhow, I got to squeeze 10 movies in there. As I said, starting next month, I may actually try, but some months I don't see as many, so we'll see what happens. But I love reviewing movies, even though, once again, I say my opinion is no better than anyone else's, especially yours. So please take it with a grain of salt. Anyhow, we're going to take a short break, and I'll be back with my final topic on this end of summer edition of Devlin's Pirate Radio Show. All right, I'm back, and I probably saddened a couple of you when you heard me say this is kind of our end of summer edition of Devlin's Pirate Radio Show, but I'm not trying to piss people off. It's not like it's the end of nice weather. In fact, in the last several years, I consider September still being a time of having some incredibly hot weather. But for me, when we head towards Labor Day weekend, for me, even though I don't go to school anymore, to me that's still the end of summer. I like the fall. And so, so technically next episode I do is the Labor Day weekend. So this is technically the end of summer. But as I said, September still has some nice weather. So it's not like we can't stop doing summery type things. It's just the way the weather's been going lately. It seems that September and even early October, sometimes we see some nice stuff. And that's because May sucks usually now. Because, all this global warming has pushed our months out of whack. That's why we don't get snow until after Christmas now. Which, I'm getting into a whole topic that's making me sad. But the end of summer doesn't sadden me. I did all my traditional stuff. I have a checklist for summer. Did the picnic, did get-togethers, went to the cottage, did the Midsummer Nights Festival. I can now check off my list. I did my end of summer movie reviews, and, I'm hoping to still get out to the drive-in once, but that could happen because the person that always takes me will be visiting me real soon. And we usually always go, unless there's a really bad storm or something. But anyhow, another thing that used to always remind me of the end of summer, and when I was a kid, I was always saddened to see this man, because it meant I'm going back to school, was something called the Jerry Lewis Telethon. And I actually decided I wanted to do a segment on the Jerry Lewis Telethon. And there are some of you thinking, why are you going to waste 20 minutes on the Jerry Lewis Telethon? And some of you young people, what the hell's the Jerry Lewis Telethon? Well, all of you probably know Jerry Lewis is a famous comedian. He did a lot of movies on his own, like The Nutty Professor, and lots of big movies that are failing to come. I think he had something like The Playboy and stuff like that, and The Busboy and stuff. And he also was a big comedic duo with Dean Martin. And another thing Jerry Lewis was famous for was he got involved with muscular dystrophy. And he would do a Labor Day telethon each year. And he still does these telethons, but the difference is at one time when there wasn't so many television options, Labor Day weekend, the only thing people would watch was the Jerry Lewis Telethon, and it used to run on the Sunday night, and then it would go until like Monday of Labor Day, maybe at 5 o'clock, and people would watch it, and they would have really good guest stars on it. Jerry would call up his Hollywood friends and say, "Come on out and do a song or do some stand up." Or even have like dance performances by people. And then they would cut away to like the affiliates that you were watching. So for us, they'd cut away to a Hamilton affiliate or a Toronto, more likely Toronto. And then you'd see basically, a bunch of people answering the phones, and then they'd bring out companies that had big checks, I think, I always think it was the Jerry Lewis Telethon that originated the big checks, where they come out and say, "We've donated $5,000 from our, company baseball team," and everybody would go nuts, and and now, because there's so many other options, you can't even find the Jerry Lewis Telethon. They put it on some small station. Some people forget they have it. I actually don't even know if they're having it this year. I should have looked that up. I don't do a lot of research for the show, but you'd think I'd look up if they're actually having a Jerry Lewis. Not to mention, Jerry Lewis is getting up there in age, which means that, I don't even know if he is. In fact, the last couple of years, I'd always see on Entertainment Tonight, they'd always do stories about will he be able to do it, because he had some health scares there for a while, and it just, he was, dealing with some issues, and sometimes but he was always a trooper, and he'd always come on, and basically he would do the things. And I think he doesn't even do the telethons anymore, personally. I don't even know if they run the telethons. But I'm still going to talk about it because it was a big part of pop culture at the time. Because even when he was very ill, he would actually try to do as much as he could. And I always gave him credit for that. And he basically is responsible for the first big telethon on TV. They used to do little ones, but this one was a nationwide thing. Big celebrities would play at it, and then it would just be, they'd raise tons of money, and even more importantly, awareness about muscular dystrophy. Now when they do telethons, they kind of do it in maybe 3 or 4 hours. A couple celebrities will come out, some performances. They've tightened it up a lot because there was a lot of filler, because you'd go. But Jerry Lewis has stayed in my heart for a lot of reasons, and I thought I had some good stories, so I wanted to do a segment. Some of you may not know this, but for a couple of years, me, my brother, my sister-in-law, and some of their friends used to answer phones for the Jerry Lewis Telethon. We wouldn't be obviously on the big Las Vegas show, but we would do it in Hamilton, and we'd sometimes do it at the old Sears at the Center Mall, or sometimes we did it at the old Royal Connaught Hotel. And we would literally answer the phones for the Hamilton affiliates, stay up all night, and we usually did the shift that started, I think the show usually started at about 9 o'clock, so we'd get there for about 8:30 for orientation on how to answer the calls, get the donations, keep it. And I have so many wonderful memories from that. And even just watching the show, as cheesy as the show was, it was very entertaining. Just because, hey, Charo's there, or, they would have some old stand-up that you didn't get to see too often coming out. Bob Newhart's going to do some stand-up, and it's like, this is dating me, because I don't think Bob does any stand-up anymore. But anyhow, it was just an amazing thing, and it's a sad thing that it's gone now. Or if it is, it's just a shell of what it used to be, because this used to be the only thing people would watch. It would even be in the background, and as I said, we would go for the orientation, and they would feed you. They would always have food and stuff around. We never got paid for it because it was volunteer. I think my brother and his friends did it. And that's how I eventually came onto it. And I remember having so much fun. We'd have so many laughs in between because when the show would start, you'd get a lot of calls. And you would work in a system that you would sit in like a row. And you'd have breaks and stuff. But basically, phone 1 would ring, then phone 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if 1 hung up, then it would go to 1. So sometimes if you were in the later phone, you wouldn't get a lot. But there were a couple times you'd always get a lot. Usually when they'd go back to Las Vegas and Jerry Lewis would introduce some star. And back at the time, it would be somebody like, Jose Feliciano. And he'd come out and sing. You probably wouldn't get that much because people were watching the performances. Hey, look, they've got like the Solid Gold Dancers doing a number. So suddenly you wouldn't get that many calls. But then Jerry would come and he'd tear up and, he was always good. Like he'd make you laugh with his, he'd always have that Jerry Lewis kind of humor still and he'd do little bits. But he'd always have that tender moment. And after those tender moments, they'd put the phone lines up and the ringing would just start. And you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you'd just see and suddenly we were busy again. Another way they would always do that was if they would obviously bring out a kid with MD. And it was always like, it was great to see. But they'd always show these little snippets of, how kids need the funds to survive. But as soon as they would bring a kid in a wheelchair out and Jerry would talk to them and you would see them interact, those phone lines would go up and once again the phones would just light up. It was actually very rewarding. And as I said, in our downtime for breaks, we'd always have a good laugh. We'd, play games. Some people would read. It was just a good time. And we felt like we were doing something good. You'd always see the celebrities on the Las Vegas one where they would have like B-list celebrities. Now when they do these big telethons where George Clooney and Brad Pitt are behind them, you'd see like Julia Roberts answering the phones. But back then you'd see like B-list stars. Like here's Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley and here's Chachi, Scott Baio and stuff. But they would only be the ones that they show on the TV. You never got to see the unsung heroes, which were the normal people that were actually taking the calls, So people would actually call and hope to talk to like Scott Baio or, Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley or something. And then it was like, it just didn't happen. You'd mostly, 1 out of 10, you might get a chance to talk to a celebrity. Most times you're just talking to one of us. But people would be very nice. And I loved, that some people would donate, big things. But it was always nice when you'd get like a kid who said, we had a MD carnival and we raised $50 for it. Now, in an earlier episode this summer, I told you we threw an MD MD was always an important cause to us. And one of the reasons is because Jerry Lewis, it was one of the only causes we knew about. But you'd also get like seniors calling or even little, kids that were like, I'd like to donate my allowance $2. And we would take every donation. So we'd get their name and address and stuff and thank them immensely. And it was really kind of rewarding. Late at night is when it got really hard because we always did the overnight shifts. I think we started around 9 and then we were done around 12. So we'd get, they'd always bring in like some food, like McDonald's would send over some Egg McMuffins and stuff like that. And that was awesome. And, they'd always be feeding you because they knew they needed the volunteers and that was pretty much the only way they could things. So there'd always be food, There was stuff there at 9 when we came, then they'd order pizza or something. And late at night, it was always kind of fun because when you're on the phone shift, basically number 1 and 2 phones were the only ones ringing because you'd get the late night people. And as soon as 1 hung up, you'd be like, oh, no, because the phone would go right to 1 again. So, if you were phone number 5 or 6, you weren't doing much. But sometimes it was interesting because we'd get some drunk people calling. And the drunk people always seem to want to talk to Jerry Lewis. And we try to explain to them that this is the Hamilton affiliate and that Jerry Lewis is not here. And there were times that Jerry Lewis was actually on the TV singing when these drunks would call and say, I want to talk to Jerry. And we're like, well, if Jerry was here, you know, why is he on TV right now singing, you know? And so, you know, a couple times we just kind of ignore it. And other times we're like, does anybody know how to do Jerry Lewis impersonation? You know, which, you know, we joked about. No, we can't just go on going, you know. But anyhow, it was funny because, and you'd also sadly get a lot of lonely people calling. They'd make their donation and then they'd just want to sit and talk for you a bit. And sometimes you did, because if you were on a phone line that was pretty much dead. And as I said, you had like a whole bunch of phone lines. So even if one got tied up, you know, only a few times right at the beginning and probably right near the end, that's when you saw like the full phone thing. Because sometimes they'd have up to about 12, maybe 18 phones. But very seldom were they all full, except for, as I said, when Jerry carted out one of the kids or would show like a family who had to deal with all the financial things. Sadly, as I said, as the years went, Jerry Lewis Telethon almost seemed to disappear, and telethons themselves took on a new shape. But I always respected Jerry Lewis, and even though I never met him, you know, I always thought it was great that we helped out in a small way, because some of you probably have some very good memories about the Jerry Lewis Telethon. My mother adamantly watched it. You know, for a woman who never wanted to cry in front of you, she loved, I don't want to say loved as in she reveled in it, but she really enjoyed seeing misery in some ways. Like she liked seeing what the money was doing to help. So she you know, loved watching the hospital stuff, like seeing families in the hospital and stuff. And I don't mean loved again as she was reveling in it. It was just, you know, she loved that kind of stuff. She'd rather watch that than a comedy. But then I said, there was so much entertainment on it. It's kind of sad it's something that is lost. And the thing I love is that when Jerry Lewis does pass away, and God forbid he passes away this week, because it'd be very strange, because he's definitely alive as of now. Not only will he be remembered for his comedy, he'll be remembered for how big he was in France. He'll be remembered for making the Jerry Lewis MD Telethon such a big thing and bringing telethons to mainstream TV. And for me, I will have those special moments where I got to have some fun with some friends and laugh and end the summer in such an amazing way. Anyhow, I hope I brought you some nice memories here. And if you never knew about this telethon, you do now, you know. As I said, they do charity stuff so differently now, even the telethons they do. But I guess as long as we're making people aware and also raising money for it, doesn't matter how we do it. But to me, it would be nice to see some more of those old-fashioned telethons come back. Because where else are people like Charo and, you know, some of the older like comedians ever going to find a place to present themselves? Anyhow, I had a great time. I hope you had a great time with this show. It was a little different, and we like that here. Hopefully the next episode will also bring some of that, and I look forward to bringing you the next episode next week. Have yourself a great end of summer, and I will see you here very, very soon.